Good afternoon. First of all, I just like to say that I'm replacing Mr. Diagas, who hasn't been able to be here with us. We have Mr. Χαραλαμπίδης. I think I'm just going to move on directly to Mr. Χαραλαμπίδης, who's going to give us some information about licenses and new applications. Mr. Χαραλαμπίδης, how many licenses are going to be given? So many. If there are applications, then these need to be evaluated and they need to be licenses need to be granted. First of all, congratulations on the organization of this very successful conference, and thank you for the invitation. And I'd just like to give some background information when it comes to the regulatory authority for energy and the licensing process. Here you see the applications that were submitted, and at the top you see the capacity, and at the bottom diagram you see the number of applications, and we can see that up to 2012 there was quite a lot of applications, peaking at 2007, but there was a pause between 2012 and 2017. Where we had the suspension of application submission because at the time it was thought that there were too many applications. And then the whole process started again from 2019 again, where you see the huge number that was submitted into 2019 and 2020. We had 1,300 in 2020 with a capacity of 33 gigawatts. In 2023, we've also had many applications. Despite the fact that there are many licenses, we continue to see a continuous submission of applications which need to be examined by RIA at a reasonably short time. In this diagram, you see the total capacity for the ones that have been granted and over the last year, since 2007 when licensing started. We can see that up to now we have 63 gigawatts. The highest number is in 2020, where you can just see these large figures. Despite the fact that there was a high number of applications and a high number of certificates, the Ministry at different stages, together with RAE, decided to kind of recall either through guarantees to record different licenses that were not active or there was no kind of any special interest. There was a fee that was established in 2012 for maintaining a license, which basically meant that if a company had a license within 4 or 5 years had not moved on to the implementation, would have to pay a certain amount in order to keep the license in force. The main difference was in 2021, where we see that with the law of 2022 that requires all the license holders to submit guarantees. We see that many applications were recalled, and despite that fact, the total number of certificates, there was 12 gigawatts that was recalled. So you can imagine that compared to the 60-something that we already have, it's a very small number. During that period, it's been seen by all investors that there's a saturation when it comes to the PV market. There's difficulty in the approval of in terms of connection by ADMIE. There is a huge waiting list. investors who are waiting for the environmental terms approval, and because there is that difference between before the meter storage or after the meter, combined with renewables, etc. And all this with state aid being only for res with storage, then we can see a number of applications for amending the applications to 11A or 11B, which include either the option of storage or capture. We see, therefore, that at this point, around 7 gigawatts have already been changed to 11A or 11B, and 2 gigawatts already have the ability, the option of capture, and we can see that the majority of those applications, see 900 gigawatts, which are PV with storage. Therefore, the prioritization has been given to PV or wind farms with storage within a 1-to-1 ratio. That's already shows a lot of interest from investors, and we see a lot of new applications and a lot of supplementary applications, especially in the cases of the 11A category, which is a very simple process. As far as the development of the installed PV stations, then we're talking about 6.2 gigawatts. What's interesting here is that around 3.5 to 4 gigawatts is a projects that do not concern projects that have been licensed by RAE. These are projects that have been exempt because up to 1 gigawatt, there was no requirement for licensing. They can just apply directly to DDA. And of course, and some of it is also rooftop PV panels. Therefore, you can imagine that only 2.5 gigawatts are projects that have been through the whole process of tender and have been examined by RAE. Therefore, all the projects which are at the stage of environmental licensing and they're kind of waiting for connection, this has created an overheating of the market that guarantees that we already have a drive for projects which are this is something that we need to look at more seriously. If we look at the breakdown of the licenses at the moment, of a total of 98 gigawatts, we can see that the PVs have exceeded. They're by far higher than wind farms, and over the coming months and years, we're going to have more licenses for PV. Another thing that's very active at the moment and puts a lot of pressure on RAE is the licenses for storage. At the moment, most of them are batteries, and some of them are for pumped storage. Also, when it comes to licenses, this is something that we mentioned earlier. It's to concern the categories of 11A and 11B. These are the statistics that we have at the moment, and therefore the prospects for PV that we see is that there's going to be a major shift when it comes to PV with storage, and there's going to be a shift towards that category. Thank you.
Ευχαριστώ πολύ, κύριε Χαραλαμπίδη. Θα θέσω μετά.
Thank you very much. I will ask some questions later on. First, let us listen to Mr. Moisiadis.